So apparently today, Marvel dropped the Thunderbolts teaser trailer on the web, and apparently people who did reactions, Disney straight up blocked them. Now, usually what I do on this channel is I just give you my thoughts because I used to do trailer reactions, and what would happen is Disney would copyright claim. Now, for those who don't understand the difference, copyright claim is when they basically claim your video or claim aspects of your video on their own, and then they get paid for your work because you're using their footage even though it's fair use, and you have to go through the copyright system in order to get access so that you get paid. But when you get your video blocked, that could or could not lead to a strike, and your video just won't be seen. So on one hand, Disney takes the money for themselves. On the other hand, they block your channel. So I've been doing these for a couple of years now, and I think it's best to do them. My thoughts on Thunderbolts. So this is going to be Marvel's version of the Suicide Squad. Former villains and anti-heroes working together for the government to try to resolve problems that regular superheroes are too busy to solve, presumably. And some of these missions are pretty much dark ops, black ops operations, that is to say, under the table, away from the public eye, and usually more dangerous. Now, I don't think this is Marvel copying DC, because the Thunderbolts have been around for a very, very long time under Thunderbolt Ross in the comics, but I'm sure some folks will say that. So I want to give you my thoughts on the new trailer. The movie is supposed to follow up on plot threads from other films like Black Widow, following up on characters that appeared in stuff like Hawkeye. Obviously, Winter Soldier will be in this film, and the talk is that he's not even in Captain America Brave New World, which I think is a little weird because he and Falcon were side by side on the Disney Plus show from a few years ago. You would think that they would at least share the screen together, but they're holding him off for this one. And the story here, obviously, the Red Guardian is going to be the comic relief like he was in Black Widow. That just makes perfect sense, and that goes the way it is. But it seems like the character story, the character anchor of this movie, I guess, and I could be wrong about this, but I guess the character is going to be mostly focused on is Florence Pugh as Yelena. Florence Pugh has had a pretty good career so far, and the first time I saw her was in Midsummer, but I think she captured a lot of people's attention with her role in Oppenheimer. So they're going to focus on her to be the emotional crutch of the story, but it's not just her. Taskmaster's coming back, characters like the U.S. agent, also from Falcon and Winter Soldier, are going to be in this. Bucky will have a role. He's all over the trailer. Julia Louis-Dreyfus as Valentine Allegra de Fontaine. It's sort of really focusing on the more grounded heroes, like I assume Captain America Brave New World will. You're going to have your cosmic Marvel stuff obviously around, but this film feels a lot more of a, maybe not necessarily a street level story like Daredevil, I don't want to say that, but certainly more grounded and based in reality. It's not going to be like Thor and stuff like that and Thanos. However, if you look back at the history of the MCU, the films that have been like this have usually been very well received. I mean, Captain America 2 and 3 are both considered classics. The Black Widow movie, not very well received. I only saw it once and never really had the urge to watch it again. And I did like Falcon and Winter Soldier. Wasn't perfect, but I enjoyed it. Also, Ghost will be in this movie, and we haven't seen Ghost since, what, Ant-Man 2? It's been a while, hasn't it? And obviously they're going to fight each other because the whole middle of this trailer is them basically fighting each other. And it's one of those things where it's like that formula where they're going to fight each other and then team up against the greater bad. Same thing we saw in Batman v Superman. Same thing we saw in Godzilla vs. Kong. It is something that's been done before, but when you have this group of characters, it's pretty vibrant and pretty alive, and I enjoyed that part of the trailer, in the middle part. In that same scene, they also introduced Bob, played by Lewis Pullman, who's supposed to be Sentry. Now, that's a bit interesting because I was thinking, and there was a rumor about this that wound up not being true, obviously, that Henry Cavill would be playing Sentry. because the whole story is that Sentry is almost like Marvel's answer to Superman. Maybe not exactly, I would say, but there are some similarities. I've seen comic book fans say that for years. But this is the debut of Sentry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Interestingly, in this film, you would think it would be saved for a more, a less grounded MCU film, but it works. And I'm no historian of Sentry, so I couldn't even tell you, like, if he really did work with the Thunderbolts or not. But the Thunderbolts film, they keep making a big deal about the fact that the title has an asterisk on it. And they're saying that the film will reveal what that means. So maybe it's not just the regular Thunderbolts, but apparently Thunderbolt Ross is not leading them in this movie, so I keep thinking that's going to be a twist they're going to reveal in the film, that he is leading them or he is involved. I don't know, but that asterisk has got a lot of fans speculating about what that could even mean. But there's a lot to this trailer that just screams Suicide Squad. I mean, as I mentioned, Valentina's kind of like the Amanda Waller of this film. And it does seem like they're going for a very similar tone. What I mean is the trailer definitely had bits of comedy in it, and I think they're going to go for that tone, that sort of suspense thriller with a few, one-liners, kind of like the old 80s Arnold and Stallone films, that type of stuff. I could see the film kind of being like that. It looks like a good time, though. I mean, based on the trailer, it does look like a good time. It looks like Marvel might be getting refocused. And we're not sure if these characters are going to be involved in Secret Wars only because, like I said, they're more grounded. But they may be. We don't know yet. But if this is going to be their big adventure, it's like a mini Avengers, except you've got characters that many of them were villains at one time. U.S. Agent was an antagonist. I mentioned Ghost. I mentioned Taskmaster. And obviously Yelena. These characters have all had a time where they were basically anti-heroes. I don't know about Red Guardian, but nevertheless, the scene in the desert where Bucky stops him, is that Bucky? Like, that's fun. Like, it looks like a decent little movie. It doesn't look like it's anything groundbreaking, but it looks like it could be a good time. I mean, there's not much that we see. What I think is pretty ironic is that going back to 2014, the talk was that James Gunn wanted to do the Thunderbolts film. Obviously, it would have been a different story and a whole different sort of vibe because that's not what the Thunderbolts were in the comics. But he wanted to do it, and then he wound up doing The Suicide Squad a few years ago, 2021, and that was like his answer. I don't think this movie will be quite as outlandish and quite as over the top as The Suicide Squad, but I think it will have a similar vibe and a similar tone. Overall, the trailer was pretty fine. I'm glad I'm not showing any footage of it because then they're going to try and claim this, but you can watch it on YouTube. It's there, and there's not much for me to say, really. It doesn't look like crap, and it looks like a decent time. It reminds me of the era of the espionage MCU movie, which we haven't seen since Black Widow, I don't think. I don't think we've seen one since Black Widow, actually. So, and this one looks to be a lot better. And better timed as well. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below.